another edition of Straight Talk. It's time, people. It's time to get out and vote. And today we're going to be talking to a candidate that is going to be representing you as Commissioner 3.
Yes.
And first of all, I want to say to her, congratulations for being one of the first African Americans, Asiatic, Black, whatever title you choose, women to be the finalists for the position Commissioner 3. Is that correct?
That is
correct. I hope I got it right.
That
yes.
is absolutely
Please
correct.
welcome Miss JoAnn.
Thank you so much.
Okay. I just want to get right into it because I want the people to be able to hear you.
Right.
What's your passion? What issues is important to you?
Right.
And what you are going to be doing for them.
Well, let me start off by saying thank you so much, Tony, for having me back. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
But I also want the listeners and viewers to understand I'm not running to be the first of anything.
Okay.
I got mad.
Okay.
I showed up at City Hall October 2016, and there were riot police surrounding City Hall. There was a police contract under deliberation that was on the fast track for passage.
Okay.
Showing up at City Hall and seeing riot police surrounding it, trying to prevent us from having our voice heard, made me really, really angry. And I was like, that can't even be legal, right? So I called the NAACP lawyer and said, we gotta sue, this can't be legal.
Okay.
She called me back a short while later and said, if one city councilor had objected, the mayor would have been prohibited from putting riot police outside. But because they were silent, it was absolutely legal. So that was the day I was like, oh, we got the wrong people in these seats.
So that was your passion.
That was
your passion.
That was just, that's where I drew the line. I'm a child of the civil rights movement.
Okay.
And I remember when people that looked like me were brutalized by law enforcement and white mobs because they were trying to register to vote, they were trying to get a good education, they were trying to get good housing, and every step of the way they were brutalized. As a child, I saw this on the evening news every night.
Right.
Right?
Now, right there, when you talk about brutalizing to vote, please talk about how important, we're going to get into some of the issues, how important it is to get out and vote these midterms.
Yes. Well, let me just say that if you don't vote, you have given your voice away.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
People died that looked like you and I.
Yes.
So that we had the privilege to vote every election cycle. Black people don't get a chance to take off an election cycle, right? And whether it's Obama or Bush or whoever else is on the ballot, we have an obligation to vote. I have voted every election since I was 18. Absolutely. I have never missed an election no matter where I was in the world, right? And so there's no excuse not to vote. But the other thing is African American votes are taken for granted. Okay. Right? People wake up 30 days before election and they go, oh, we got to get black people to vote, right? But black people need something to vote for. Okay. And what I find is most people today want something to vote for. Okay. And so I have been working my heart out to talk to people to find out what do they want? What do they want? Right?
What are they saying to you?
The biggest issues.
Okay.
Housing and houselessness.
Let's talk about housing.
There's a lot of misperceptions about the people who are unhoused on our streets. The bottom line is people are living on our street because it costs too much to live in the city of Portland. I have been on the board of Human Solutions, which is a shelter for families and affordable housing for families in East Portland. And I can tell you, most of the adults work full-time. Most work 2 and 3 jobs. They just can't afford first, last security deposit, pet deposit, and pet rent to live in the city of Portland.
Now, when you get this position, what are you going to do to the people that's going to help change that?
Well, the first thing I'm going to do is prohibit us from criminalizing people for being poor. Last year, 54% of people who were arrested and prosecuted by Portland police, but for being homeless, would have never entered our criminal justice system. 84% were nonviolent. Right?
Now, I don't want the people to think that's just black people. That's everybody under that 54%.
Everybody under this 54%.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'm not, this is a non-discriminatory number.
But it's 54%.
But it's 54% of the total arrests.
Wow, my
So if you think about what police job is supposed to be, they only have 2 jobs: to stop crime and to investigate crime. That's it.
That's it.
They can't solve the housing crisis, the lack of mental health services. Their job is not to be the first responder for people with mental health issues. I'm excited because once I'm elected,
I can feel your energy, yes.
Right? Once
yes.
I'm elected, I already know what bureaus I'll have.
Okay.
And it'll be the rest of the emergency response system. So the 911 call center, the fire department, the Bureau of Emergency Management, right? Okay. So the rest of the public safety system except police. I did ask for police, but the mayor declined, right?
Okay.
But what's great about that is we can start reinvesting in the rest of our public safety system, because safety is not just police, right? Safety is, community safety has a much bigger definition, and police play a very small role in that. But we're spending so many public resources on police for people who, but for being poor, would never end up in jail. And then they end up back on the street anyway. So what I will do first is divert money from prosecuting people for being poor and actually hire houseless people to clean up the garbage, to bring mobile hot meals, to bring mobile laundry, so that we're using a compassionate, empathetic approach to helping people who are down. We don't have a safety net anymore. So a lost job, a car breaks down, your child gets sick, your parent gets sick, you're done.
You're done.
Right? You just, boom, you're right over the edge. Right? And in Portland, the housing crisis isn't new. When it was only impacting African Americans, between 2000 and 2010, when 10,000 African Americans were moved out of inner Northeast, nobody said there was a housing crisis.
And that was the regentrification?
No,
quote,
we were told this was progress. This was right. This was urban development, right? Being led by Portland Development Commission, right? But at the end of the day, black people were pushed out to the edges of the city, and now we have people that want to charge congestion pricing for the privilege of coming back into the city.
Now explain that to the viewers. What does that mean?
So what that means is, everybody has noticed, the roads are pretty congested now, right? You can't go any time of day without being in traffic, right? And part of that is because we have a lot of new people. We've had 45,000 people move here every year for the last 3 years,
My goodness.
right?
Yes.
And there are more coming, right? And which means there are more cars on the road. However, we have passed a resolution that says Portland is going to be carbon neutral by 2050, right? We have this vision of climate change, and we want to be leaders. So spending $500 million to expand the freeway is inconsistent with that vision, right? And so we don't have a plan of how we're going to get there, but we say we want to reduce auto emissions, right? Expanding the freeway won't get us there, right? If we're not investing in a world-class public transit system that's available for everybody and built based on people who need it most, right? Today we build our transit system based on people who have the most options. People with options will always have options, but people who are transit dependent, I live in East Portland, we have really rotten roads, we have really bad public transit infrastructure. But what's interesting is I've learned during this campaign, so does Southwest Portland.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Right? We all think Southwest got it going on, right? Big, beautiful homes, right? They got all the politicians, so clearly they got it going on, right? But when you walk in Southwest, it is just as dangerous as walking in East Portland, because there's a lack of sidewalks, lack of good lighting, right? And you have streets that just make U-turns, right? I mean, it's crazy, right? My car, I knock on wood that my car makes it through there.
Now, I want to touch on something, because you said something about the people that, I think the viewers heard that people that commit crimes are free. And you're not saying that. You're just.
I am saying
because I don't want, people get that. Well, she said anybody commit crimes, she's gonna move.
Let me give you the example.
Yes.
So people are being prosecuted for crimes like trespassing. Loitering. Right. Public urination. Right. People are being prosecuted for crimes that, if they weren't poor, they would never enter the criminal justice system, right? And so it's not that they're committing murder or robbery or they're raping anybody or molesting children. These are people, but for being poor. If a police officer walks up to you and you're houseless and says you need to move, and you said move where? You're interfering with a public safety officer. That's a crime.
That's a crime.
Right? And so what we're doing is using police as a tool to remove people that make us uncomfortable.
Gotcha. Right.
And the reality is, the problem is, we don't have enough housing that they can afford to live in.
And our officer could be doing something else.
The officer could be solving crimes. Right?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Rather than picking and choosing what calls they will or won't answer, we have police officers that will tell the public, oh, well, we don't respond to those. And their reasoning, we don't have enough people. Well, but if you're a police officer and you get a call that says, I need assistance, you don't get to choose which one you will respond to and which one you won't. Right? And so we have officers who are telling the public, oh, well, no, and their excuse is we don't have enough officers. We have enough officers.
Right.
We just have them poorly assigned.
So that's part of your program, is to assign them to more vital,
Now,
I guess.
I will not have direct control of the police bureau, but I will be working with Chief Daniela Outlaw and the mayor's office to actually push policies that makes police do the job that they're hired to do. Right? We need an evaluation, we need an audit of the entire police department. Because what I saw from the auditor's office when she did an audit of the gang enforcement unit was terrifying. So we have 28 officers who don't answer calls, who don't back up officers in need. All they do is go out and intervene in gang activity. In 2016, 54% of the people they stopped, searched, and questioned were African American. If you believe police, that gang activity happens between 12 and 24 years old, there are not enough black children in the city of Portland to justify 54% of a professionally trained force to be stopping African Americans.
Yeah, that's a huge number.
And the fact that we have no one on the city council that questions the police, because this data hasn't changed in a decade, right? And when you say, I said to Mayor Wheeler, you should just disband the gang enforcement unit, because they don't know what they're doing. They wouldn't find a gang member if they fell over one, especially if they weren't black, right? His response was, oh, we can't do that. Lately, you may have noticed there's been all this news about a reemergence of gang activity and shootings.
Exactly.
But all that news comes from inside the police department. And so I have become someone who can't trust information that they produce. I trust information the Department of Justice, Civil Rights Division produces, which when they came and investigated them, we found that they were abusing people with mental health issues, right? Nothing's changed. Everybody who's been killed since the Department of Justice has been in Portland has had a mental health issue.
So your program is basically put the officers on more vital arrests.
It's to make sure that they're not even called in the first place.
To go out and...
Yes. If I have mental health professionals triaging people with mental health issues phone calls, they're going to send the most appropriate mental health professional
to the scene.
To the scene.
Absolutely.
Right?
That's clear.
The police will only be called if the police are absolutely necessary.
That's clear.
We've never had one person killed in a mental health facility because they didn't do what they were told to do.
Now, what do we do with these homeless people?
What we do is we start building housing at every income level in every neighborhood. We start creating share housing opportunities. We start matching empty nesters with families that need housing. We start triaging people and getting people connected to whatever it is they need. Most people just need a better paying job and a place they can afford to live in. We talk about affordable housing, but that's an oxymoron. What we should be saying is housing people can afford to live in. Right? Because when we say median income in the Portland metro area, the median income today is $72,500. So when you hear government say, we're going to build housing at 80% of the median income, that still means you need $50,000 annually, minimum to actually get the place. Most landlords want you to make 3 times whatever the rent is before they will let you move in, right? Most people aren't making that kind of money. Where I live, the people on the freeway overpass begging for money are women over 60, and it's not rocket science. When you're at a fixed income and your rent goes up, the only wiggle room you have is medicine and food.
So now, we got the officers.
Yes.
We're dealing with the homeless.
Yes.
And so how do we get those homeless people into your
Housing.
program? The
Into housing.
Yes.
Well, the first thing we have to do is remove barriers at City Hall.
Okay.
I have talked to so many developers that
Right.
say it's harder today to build housing that people can afford to live in than it was before the housing crisis was declared.
My goodness.
Give you a great example.
Okay.
I know a developer that has a plot of land that he wants to do a fourplex on, right? He said before the crisis, he could divide the land and get the permitting all at the same time, and it would take about a year.
Okay.
Today, he has to do both processes separately, and both processes take a year and a half. So we've
My
added 2
goodness.
years in a
Yes.
housing emergency, right?
Okay.
That is stupid,
Right.
and it does. I don't understand why it is that it takes longer and it's harder. Now the other issue is we already have 5 years of permits already issued
For building.
for buildings,
Okay.
right? So developers don't have to come back to the city for 5 years because we've got ample permits out already. But what's being built are luxury units.
Like, okay. And the people that need the housing can't afford.
Yes. We
That
have
process.
16,000 empty luxury apartments in the Portland metro area today.
Now, the viewing audience here and the
Yes.
viewing audience out
Yes.
there is probably asking the question, why can't we get people in those places?
Because the people who own them
Okay.
are charging $2,300 to $3,500 for a studio or 1 bedroom.
My goodness.
So they're not anticipating people coupling up or having
Right.
children or, being anything but one person living in a little box, right?
My goodness.
And so they built it as fast as they possibly could because they wanted to cash in, right,
Okay.
on this emerging market. The city didn't do enough to protect what was already affordable. And so what happened, and people pretend that market forces is this force in and of itself.
Yes.
The government has a lot of power to control market forces. One thing I want to do is
Okay.
inventory all the land that the city, county, school district, Multnomah County, ODOT, PDOT already owns.
Okay.
Because what I hear from talking to people is the biggest expenditure is land.
It's land. Okay.
So let's look at the land that government already owns, figure out what land we can trade. Maybe some is industrial that's not suitable for building residential. So let's trade it with people who have a residential land, right? Let's be creative, right?
And then we can move those people that have the homeless.
Yes.
Can move into that, and it's affordable to them.
And it's affordable to them.
Okay.
And we have to have housing that's permanently affordable in every neighborhood.
Every
Your
neighborhood. I
income
like
should
that,
not
yeah.
determine your zip code.
Code.
Right?
Gotcha.
Yes.
Now, what's another issue that you're hearing while you're out there with the people?
Yes, one of the other big issues, of course, is access at City Hall.
Okay.
The further away you live from City Hall, the less you believe your voice matters.
Oh my
Right?
Yes.
If you want to impact City Hall today, you have to go downtown at 9:30 a.m. on Wednesday morning, wait 2 hours for city employees to pontificate about whatever the issue is, and then the city council will determine whether you get 2 or 3 minutes to make your case for whether you support or oppose the policy. I want to bring city council to the people.
Absolutely.
I want to bring it out into the neighborhoods. I want to do it in the evening. I want to do it when working people have the opportunity to participate. I want to do it when students have the opportunity to participate, right? The only people that are served when city council meetings happen at 9:30 a.m. Wednesday morning are downtown business interests.
Right.
Only people who have a vested interest in the outcome.
Everybody else got to be at work.
Everybody else is at work and school, taking care of their family.
Absolutely,
right?
yes.
And there's no reason for it, right? The other thing is how expensive it is to run for office. I'm unique because I've been doing a lot of good work in this community for almost 30 years.
Okay.
And I know people in community media and police accountability and environmental justice and climate justice. I know people across the board. So most people who run for public office are told you need $250,000 right off the bat, right?
Right.
Most people don't have $250,000,
Absolutely,
right?
yes.
And don't know people with $250,000. And so next election cycle in 2020, the public finance system that the city council passed will be fully implemented.
Okay.
We had to fight to make sure it was funded, that staff were hired, that there would be the money there so that in 2020, a candidate running for the city council can get a $50 donation that will be matched up to 6 times, which would make it a $300 donation. So regular people can make the case and run for public office.
Now, what's that called? So people, that bill
It is a public finance system,
so
and it is the law at the city of Portland. So it was passed by the city council by ordinance.
Okay.
It is now being overseen by Amanda Fritz's office.
Okay.
And it will be fully implemented and ready for use in the 2020 election cycle, right? So there's a process that you'll have to go through. There's a governing board being put together right now that will monitor the implementation. The other thing, and so it's important that people know that regular people will have more of an opportunity to run.
Absolutely.
The other thing is on this ballot, there's also a campaign finance limit of $500 per donation, right? I support that. I've always supported campaign finance limits because, again, today money speaks louder than anything else in our political process, right? And if you can limit everybody to $500, knowing that you've got the match, $50 match that brings you up to $300, so you're almost equitable to the fat cat who can write the $500 check.
Exactly.
Right? My campaign has been supported by regular people. I have over 1,800 individual donors from $5 to $5,000.
That's beautiful.
With $5,000 being my ex-mother-in-law.
Okay.
Right?
Well,
Right?
Ex-mother-in-law stepped in there for you.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that is very unique in a city council race, because normally downtown business interests decide who becomes a city councilor, right? They write big checks. In fact, I have over 1,800 donors. My competitor has 300.
Okay.
Right? Big difference in donors. Big difference in sizes. Right? I did mine the old-fashioned way, eyeball to eyeball. 150 house parties all over the city of Portland. Right?
It's interesting. I was out in the parking lot, and a young lady said, "You here?"
Right.
I mean, she sends you everywhere. So that speaks to what you're doing. You're out there with the people.
Yes.
What's another issue that they're talking to you about?
One of the big things in the city of Portland is the new urban infill, right?
Okay.
Because we have 45,000 people moving here a year, we need to build up.
Gotcha.
Some neighborhoods are in a rage because their neighborhood is going to change, right? There are people that feed into the NIMBYism and go out and say, oh, you're right, and that shouldn't be. And I go out and I tell people, and I've said this in many neighborhoods, we're changing. We have people coming. We have an obligation to accommodate them.
Right.
And your neighborhood will change, right?
That's the bottom line.
Bottom line,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Now the question is whether or not we impose or we work with the community to actually create new vital communities, right? Based on the fact that 45,000 people are moving here every year, right? I want to work with the community, which is why I have vilified no one. I've talked to developers and realtors, and I've talked to apartment complex owners, and what I hear is people believe that if they disagree, that they don't get an audience at City Hall.
Oh my goodness.
And we can't make good decisions if we're not talking to everybody, right? And so I think people have been most surprised that I'm not a narrow thinker. When I learn better information, I make better decisions, right? Developers have said they're kind of appalled that they think rent control is coming, right? And I said, well, what do you got? I'm willing to meet with you, right? I mean, that's a tool that is on the table. But if you've got a better tool, I'm open.
Let's work with it.
Let's develop it.
Now, how does this turn into jobs?
Oh, jobs.
Yes, because I know people. We don't talk about the homeless.
Yes.
We're going to talk a little about healthcare, but
yes,
people want to know how they can get a job and how this turned into jobs in their community.
I am happy to say that I led an initiative, the Portland Clean Energy Fund Initiative, which is on this exact same ballot, that if passed will create a pool of resources around $30 to $35 million annually to be invested in low-income communities and communities of color and creating the workforce for the new green energy economy.
Now, please say that again, because it's on the ballot.
Yes, it is. But open up your book. Let me get my glasses. I'll tell you what. I don't even remember the number.
Okay.
I need my glasses, though.
Okay. We're going to open up.
I'm old.
Okay.
Yeah, but we'll do that.
People, this is the voting pamphlet.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I think, and I'm sure everybody's
had it.
Got one. So she's going to open up to it.
Yes.
And we're going to talk a little bit about, because that is important, because we're talking about jobs now.
We are talking about communities of color for the very first time in Oregon's history coming together, developing a proactive ballot measure, leading the charge to collect 66,000 signatures, and leading a campaign that is leading with race.
Okay.
We have never, ever, ever in Oregon done that. And this is being led by the NAACP Portland branch,
Okay.
by Native American Youth and Adult Association, by Verde, which works primarily with a Latino population,
Okay.
Alpano, Asian Pacific Islander Network of Oregon, Sierra Club, and 350 PDX.
Okay, beautiful.
I spent 2.5 years working to build a coalition to develop this initiative. Now, what it does is raise the business income tax by 1%.
Okay.
On corporations with a $1 billion in national sales
Okay.
and a $500,000 sales in the city of Portland. They have to reach both criteria.
Okay.
There are very few Oregon businesses that would apply.
I'm glad you said, because I want the small business
Very
people
few. No.
are freaking out thinking this is going to affect them.
We have a lot of
Got
small
it.
business support for
Got
this,
it.
right?
Got it.
The bottom line for this is I've asked Mayor Wheeler to put this in my portfolio
Okay.
so that I can make sure it's implemented the way intended.
Absolutely.
Today, the green economy is white, male dominated, with no immediate plan to bring women and people of color into it.
Okay.
We will lead this effort in training our people so that they're prepared. Today, we can't even tell students a vision for how they can have a family wage job when they get out of school. How many students do you know that can take on 6-figure debt to get a college education
Absolutely.
for a job that won't even pay off their loan?
Their loan.
Right? At 17, we're asking young people to decide will you own a home or will you go to college? Because you can't do both.
Can't do them both.
Right?
Okay.
This will be a game changer. Because, and of course, there are a lot of people. Of course, the business community hates it because the legislature should solve this, right?
Right.
But what we need is leadership, and we have no time to wait. We can't wait for the federal government to get its act together. We can't wait for the state to get its act together. The people that are most impacted by climate change are people of color. And we will be in the lead of creating the jobs and the opportunities for those folks prioritized who've been left out of the economic engine.
Now I'm going to wrap
I'm going to
up.
get the number, but you're going to take a break?
Yeah.
Are we going to come back? Okay.
No, we're going to.
I'll stop talking, and you ask me a question.
Well, I want to
While I look for the
We
number.
mentioned the initiative.
Yes.
Is there another
The Portland
issue?
Clean Energy Fund Initiative.
Okay. And then also
It is 26-201.
26-201.
201. And
That's
that
the
is a
one.
yes, absolutely
That's
yes.
it. It's another issue. I'm getting a wrap up, but
All
I
right.
want to make sure we get some other,
Okay.
one more issue that you're
Right.
concerned about that
Yes.
you want the people to know.
So the big one is the housing bond. There are
okay.
misperceptions about the state change. So there's a metro housing bond that will create resources so that we can continue to build housing that's affordable for people to live in. But we must pass the state constitution change so that we can partner with nonprofits and community development corporations. Today, Oregon's constitution says if government builds housing, government has to own it, which means it becomes much more expensive,
Exactly.
right? If we pass the state constitutional change, it gives us more flexibility with those bond dollars, which means we'll build almost twice as many units as we can if government has to own it.
Well, it sounds like you've done your research and you're about the people.
I am.
Before we go, 30 seconds or
Yes.
more, why people should go out and vote for JoAnn Hardesty for
They should-
Commissioner number 3.
They should vote for JoAnn Hardesty because what
Hardesty.
they see is what they get, right?
right.
I have been a long-term community activist. I'm a former legislator. I'm a vet. I've run a small business. I've run a community nonprofit. I've served on many boards and commissions. I have endorsements of all the media outlets who did endorsements for the general election. Clean sweep, got them all. And I have the support, most importantly, of over 1,800 Portlanders who believe that now's the time for bold leadership, not status quo. So if you want change, if your life is not as good as it could be, you want me. If everything's good, you probably want my opponent.
And then how do they do that? They go out.
They vote. They turn in
they
that
go out-
ballot before 8 p.m., November 6th.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. JoAnn Hardesty.
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 Yes. Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Appreciate. We got it. Yes. Pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the butterfly. Give them a big hand. Uh-oh. I'm going to walk over and talk to Dr. Kenya, if you will, please. Am I on? Dr. Kenya? Please, and ladies, thank you. Ladies, thank you so much. Let's give them the butterflies another one. Tell us a little bit. I know you're going to come back and just kind of explain to you there's something special going on this year with the organization, and this is a celebration. So would you come back and kind of explain to us, because I know people are wondering what the mass is all about. Can you tell us a little bit, and then you come back?
Exactly. We're going to talk about the Katrinas, and we will be hearing a little bit.
Okay. The butterflies are going to come back, and we're going to explain to us. And what is the name of the celebration?
It's El Día de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead, but we are going to explain you the real Day of the Dead, because it's not like the movie. It's more meaningful. It's honoring our ancestors. So we're going to explain you much more about that, and we have traditions and bread and decoration that we do.
Sounds awesome. When we come back, we're going to be joining with the auditors running for Multnomah County auditor position. So please stay tuned. The butterflies are going to come back to us. Give them a big hand, please. The butterflies. Thank you. And today, we're going to be talking with two candidates that are running for the Multnomah County auditor position. And I'm going to let them explain to you what an auditor is, because it's very important. And before we get into that, please get out and vote. It is your voice, okay? Please welcome Ms. Jennifer McGuirk and Scott learn? Please. Let's kind of just get right into it. Each one of you, please explain to the viewing audience here what an auditor is in your perspective. Each one of them. Ladies first, we'll start with you, Ms. Jennifer.
Okay, well, thank you.
Okay.
So at Multnomah County, the charter calls for the auditor to do performance audits. So we look at how simply the operations are performing. We look at best practices for the particular area of operation we're studying, what we should be seeing and what we are seeing. And we compare the condition of what we're seeing with those standards and make recommendations for how it could be working better. We look at how effective are the services. Are they being operated in a way that's efficient, accountable to the public? Is it done in a way that's transparent? And in particular, I also want to look at what's happening on the outcomes end. Are the vulnerable people who are being served having good outcomes as a result of the county services they're receiving? We always, of course, look at the financials and other data. We talk to as many people as we can to really get a good sense of what's happening and how it could be better.
Okay, Mr. Scott, please.
Yeah, Jennifer is exactly right. It's all about improving services. And part of why I'm running is because I've seen the power of performance auditing to improve government services for the most vulnerable people among us. When I'm an auditor for the state now, one of the audits I worked on was temporary assistance for needy families, and we really dug into that, looked at confidential case records, talked to caseworkers, talked to people receiving the assistance, and made a lot of great recommendations that caused the reform, help contribute to a reform of that program and really provide better services to these clients who are some of the most vulnerable people in the state. And Multnomah County, as Jennifer would tell you too, has an incredible array of important services. We're talking about the physical and mental health services, the justice system, jails, district attorney's office, the probation and parole, the libraries, a whole host of really important services. So I know from firsthand experience that we as auditors can really help those services improve.
Okay, if each one would talk about an issue that is so important to you that you really want the viewers and the community and the state to know about, that you are passionate about.
Are you talking about from our personal agenda?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll go first and then I guess you can do a couple
Okay.
first. So two issues really come to mind. One of the reasons I decided to run is because we were seeing issues happening throughout our justice system that the auditor's office really did not step up and look into. And so one of the first things I want to do is, in my opinion, a long overdue audit of jail conditions. We have information from an internal audit that was done in 2015 by someone who worked for the sheriff that found disproportionate use of force against people of color. Disability Rights Oregon has done two reports that found really egregious conditions for people with mental health conditions in our jails. And both the chair and sheriff had said, we want to improve this. So this is an opportunity to see where they have made positive changes and what yet we need to do. The other thing I'm hearing about pretty much everywhere I go, every door I knock on, is housing and homelessness. Mm-hmm. People are really concerned. They know we're spending over $50 million on this a year as a community, and they're still seeing people who don't have homes, or they have neighbors who are having to move out of their homes because they can't afford them. And so that's another issue that I would audit during my first year.
Okay. Scott?
Yeah, probably the issue that's nearest and dearest to my heart is mental health services for vulnerable people. And in part that's because I've done a lot of work in schools. I was a reporter for 23 years before I became an auditor and covered schools quite a bit. And then a couple of the audits that I've worked on have also had to do with schools. And when you go to schools, what the folks talk to you about, particularly at high poverty schools, is that they need more support and care for behavioral problems and mental health issues. And the county is involved with that, and I think doing a good job, but probably could do more, and there's probably some obstacles to them doing more. So I'd like to get us out into the schools, figure out what's going wrong, how we can get more access to mental health care. I think we'll learn a lot about the mental health care system in the process. And then also, we'll be going to a lot of the schools that are having problems all around the county, so we'll really have a good beat on what's happening in the county, what issues are really trending first, because I think, as you all know, the schools are where those issues show up initially. And then, like Jennifer, housing and homeless services are important to me in the justice system. I don't know if y'all saw the article in Willamette Week, last edition, on the Department of Community justice, but that has a lot of problems with racial tension within the ranks and a lot of concerns about productivity. So in terms of justice system audits, I think that'd be the first one I'd go to.
Okay, each of you spoke about the mental health and the homeless. As auditors, how would you address that? Each one of you could have, we'll go to Scott because Jennifer started first. How would you address that? And then we'll come to Jennifer to address that issue as well.
Yeah, on homelessness, I think the county's city and county have a joint office of homeless services. And I think it's doing a really good job, but I would like to look in more depth at the different practices that they're employing and look around the country at what are the most successful practices and see what's happening there. Then also we have to get, again, as always, auditors are really good at getting to the bureaucratic obstacles in the system, and the way we do that is we talk to the people who are providing services on the ground. On every audit we do this, and then talking to the people who are receiving the services. And I think that way we'll discover what are the why are people falling through the cracks? What are the bureaucratic obstacles? So I think it's kind of a two-level audit. It's really big picture with a nationwide focus on are there places elsewhere that are doing things better, but it's also on the ground here in Multnomah County. And as a reporter for a long time and now as an auditor, that's been probably the most enjoyable part of the job. I look forward to having our county office do that as well.
Okay, Jennifer.
Sure. One of the things that I really try to work by, and is one of my values, is the notion of nothing about us without us, which has been, I think, really popularized through the disability rights movement. But I think it's something that a lot of underserved communities can relate to. The notion that if we're looking into an issue that affects you, that affects your community, you need to be at the table with us. And it's not just interviewing you and then going away and coming out with a report. It's talking up front about what your concerns are as a member of the particular community, whether it's someone with lived experience of mental illness or someone who's been homeless or is in a state of houselessness, and finding out what their experiences are and bringing that lived experience and wisdom into shaping the audit, reporting back to those communities directly on what we find. You know, we actually have done 2 audits on the housing and homeless services in the past 5 years, and we have really looked at best practices around the nation and what that system could be doing better. But we have not really looked at what are the impediments people who need to access services are facing. And even if you talk to providers, that's not the same as going out and doing what you can to talk to the individuals with that experience and having them feel like some ownership in the process so that they can help us move the needle further to correct the issues.
Okay. I see Scott giving a yes on that. That's one of the passionate issues that you have as well as you want to see addressed.
Absolutely.
And as auditors, with these issues that confront you, how do you implement what you want to do to help change it? Ms. Jennifer, we'll start with you.
Sure. So that gets tricky because we often get in and we see how we would like it to be fixed.
Okay.
But as auditors, we are not allowed to take a management role.
Okay.
So what we try to do are make recommendations that are feasible and will get at the root causes that we've identified in our audits. You know, this is the real reason we have this particular issue. Here are some recommendations to help correct it. And then management has an opportunity to make those corrections. One thing I want to improve upon in our office is having a much more robust follow-up audit schedule so that you know, the person we've been auditing the program knows we're coming back in a year or 2 and we expect you to have made a number of changes. I also really want to work with community to help keep that pressure on those programs and on the other arms of government for the county to help keep the momentum for change. Because as auditors, we can really identify issues, raise them to a new level of awareness, but we need partners to help make sure those changes actually occur.
Okay, Scott.
Yeah, I agree with everything Jennifer said, and then also I think we can be stronger in our recommendations and sort of what we're starting to do at the state is we make a recommendation, we have the agency that we're making the recommendation to say who's going to be responsible for implementing that recommendation and what the deadline is. And so that helps, you know, sort of really help us follow up on it and report back if people don't implement it. But I think the biggest thing, and part of the reason I'm running, is the Auditor's Office at Multnomah County really needs to focus on the services that matter most in the county. And I go back, it's mental health care, it's physical health care, it's the justice system, it's the DEA's office, it's the jails. And those are things that part of the reason I'm running is the Auditor's Office hasn't really focused on those in the last 10 years in any depth. So I think if we focus on services like that, that everyone, all y'all out there, people in the audience that you all care about, it's going to get a lot more interest from the community and a lot more attention. And that's what helps to drive, to ensure, that does help to ensure that recommendations get implemented. So one of the more recent audits that I was involved with was the foster care audit at the state level. And that, I think a really great audit that called out the problems in that system and the desperate need for reforming it. And that audit got a lot of attention, and I think it's going to get a lot of a lot of the recommendations will get implemented, and a lot of positive change is going to happen as a result. So I think that approach will work in Multnomah County as well.
Okay. Now, both of you spoke about the justice system. What, in each one of you's perspective, it seems to be the issue with the justice system? Scott, we'll start. Did I start with you last time, Scott?
No, I started.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
I like that honesty. Yeah. Okay, Scott.
So I think the most pressing issue are disparities in the justice system. So we know, obviously, through Black Lives Matter and the police shootings and everything else, that there's a lot of tension between police and communities out there. And as auditors, we can get to the data behind that and start, really drilling into where are there the biggest disparities, what can we do about them. Again, we can look nationwide for successful practices in particular areas. So I think what we're saying is let us as auditors go in, drill into the details, talk to the people who are receiving the services, talk to the people who are providing those services, whether it's a district attorney or a sheriff's deputy, and people who are on the other end of those services, whether it's a defendant or maybe an arrestee or someone involved in the system, defense attorneys, that sort of thing. Figure out why these disparities, try to get a better idea, backed by data, of why these disparities are happening, and then try to figure out best practices to address them.
Okay. Jennifer, please.
I think that if you talk with the members of our local public safety coordinating council, which is housed at the county, the majority will say to you, the disparities, the issues we're seeing are systemic, and they're based on the way our justice system was created and built up. Okay. There's systemic racism there, and it's something that I think people are starting to be more honest about and willing to talk about so that we can make change and have a justice system that really is about justice. And not have situations like with the city of Portland and the gang enforcement team, disproportionately pulling over people of color. Okay. When we have systemic bias like that going on, that's a real signal that there's something ingrained in our system that we need to change. And as auditor, our focus really is on systems and how can we get systems changed. I think I've noticed that people both within the Pacific Northwest and other parts of the country are looking at justice systems in other parts of the world that are considered more humane and focused more on true rehabilitation and supports. I think certainly with our programs that are diversionary and help people avoid getting into the justice system, that's probably a better place to be putting our emphasis, and the data is showing that.
Okay. Scott.
Oh, no.
Okay. Now, the viewing audience here and the viewing audience that's viewing this, how do they get to you? How do they feel like they're part of this? Because it sounds like the auditors is kind of looking at the data once it happens and starts putting it together. But how do people get information out to you, become more personal with you about this?
So one of the things I've been doing every Saturday for the past couple of months is flyering in neighborhoods saying, I'm going to be at this coffee shop in your neighborhood. Please come and ask me questions. And I've been doing door-to-door just to get to know people and make sure the issues I want to focus on are community issues. If I'm elected, I'll be doing town halls. I will try to make sure when I do a report, it's not just to the Board of County Commissioners, which the charter requires, but I'm also going out and reporting to the communities affected by that particular issue. I've been a part of many community events during my campaign, whether it's the Walk with Immigrants and Refugees or going to the No on 105 kickoff, trying to be out there so that people can see, oh, this office exists and here's a person who wants to represent it. if I have a problem, I know I can go to that person.
Absolutely, Scott.
Yeah, it is on the auditor to reach out. We can't expect people to come to us.
Yes.
So for me, I think I need to have a diverse kitchen cabinet that includes representatives from all groups, and I will be building that as auditor. The Coalition of Communities of Color is an excellent example. You know, talking to them, they have PhD level researchers at almost all of their members,
Okay,
and that's a
yes.
great source for us. I do want to have focus groups on particular issues. You know, I find that gets people the most animated. And then I do want, after we're done with audits, I want to go out to the stakeholders and the community members that we've talked to and talk to them more about that audit and what they think we missed and what they think we hit and what else we should be doing. So it's sort of a three-pronged effort to try to increase knowledge in the community. And again, I think if we focus on, instead of focusing on kind of administrative or bureaucratic process audits, if we focus on real services that really matter to people, I think we'll be able to actually draw more people to these kind of events and help bring them in. So that's still kind of my bedrock strategy for also increasing community involvement.
Okay. Now, as an auditor's board, how do they, is it the auditor's board or is it a committee?
We have an audit committee,
Okay.
but what they really do is help with the outside firm that does the financial audit for the entire county.
Okay.
And so the auditor works with that committee, but that's really their area of focus.
Okay. How does, I'm putting myself in the perspective of a viewer, audience, and a citizen that's not aware of what auditors do.
Mm-hmm.
I bring some information to you, and I'm saying, you know, in this particular neighborhood, this is happening, how do we address it? How do we get that to you, so and it be addressed?
Mm-hmm.
We'll start with Scott, and then we'll come to Jennifer.
Yeah, we'll have, I mean, I'll have an open door.
Okay.
And obviously I'll have my email, my cell phone number, so you can call on that, and that's great, but it is hard to understand what auditors do, so I think
right.
we have to get out to community groups and talk to them about what we do and get those ideas out there and talk to the leaders in the community so they know what we do. I think it's interesting being on this campaign trail because it's generally very well-informed, civically engaged people have no idea what a performance auditor is and just don't have a good sense necessarily of what we do. So we need to educate people. I think actually this campaign, we had 3 people in the primary.
Okay.
We got 2 people now.
Yes.
It's the first time in a long time that there's been a really contested auditor race like this. And I think, I hope this show, I hope everything else, it just educates people on performance audits can make a significant difference. And we need to keep carrying, no matter who wins,
Right.
we'll keep carrying that message, I think.
Definitely, we have to be out there so people know who we are so they can hold us accountable.
Okay.
That's why I've been doing so much community engagement and outreach through my campaign. People can call me at any time. I've been getting calls already from people with questions, issues. Any member of the public should also know they can contact our Good Government hotline with any concerns they may have about how county government is operating. And if it ends up being something that the county's not responsible for, we always refer it to the appropriate government agency to look into the issue. But that's one way some things come to our attention. I will be creating an organizational ombudsman position if I'm elected, and that will be a place for people who've had employment issues within the county. So employees may be facing harassment or discrimination, or they're raising the alarm about a big issue that's going on and they're not getting traction on it. They can talk to that person confidentially and get some supports. So those are some of the different ways people could access the office and get information about what we do and also provide information on what we should be looking into. But really, I feel like the role needs to be out in the community as much as possible.
Okay. Now, what issues are each one of you finding that people are, is kind of priority or top on their list that they bring to you? Each one of you can chime in. We'll start with you, Scott. No, we'll start with Scott, like Jennifer.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I think I mentioned housing and homelessness are the things
Okay.
people are mentioning repeatedly to me.
And what are they saying when they say,
Yeah.
okay,
So some people are talking about how their neighbors are having to move out of their neighborhood.
Okay.
This was in Rockwood because there's some concern about crime in the area, but also prices are going up and people can't afford to live in their homes anymore. As I've talked to some providers, who are supposedly able to give out resources for people who are facing houselessness. They'll say, you know, I've had a family drive up in their car, a mom and her kids, and I didn't have any vouchers left or anything else to give them. And so they slept in our parking lot in their car. So I think it's out of a real caring for others that people are raising this issue. And also just the sense of, how did we get here? We're spending $50 million on this a year.
My goodness.
What is this money going toward? So that's why I really want to look at, we've done a great analysis already in our office of where the money is going, which providers are getting the money and how it's concentrated. We need to get out there and be talking to people about the experiences I just mentioned.
Okay. Scott.
Yeah, homelessness
Okay.
definitely
Yes.
comes up, and rising housing costs and rising traffic and other things that the Multnomah County Auditor wouldn't necessarily have much to do with. And I also find a lot of concern about just, you know, sort of the brunt of a lot of the problems hitting East County, you know, so, you know.
Now, what problems are those? You said that's in the East County.
Yeah, a lot of
Okay.
homelessness, a lot of
Okay.
concerns about affordable housing, a lot of concerns about more affordable housing. Is it too much? And then concerns about, is it not enough? You know,
Okay.
and just, it's been really fascinating being on this audit that I'm on right now. That's Department of Education and Portland Public Schools.
Okay.
Because you can just see that a lot of the problems are really intensifying in East County. You
Oh,
know,
my goodness, yes.
and
Yeah.
just talking to schools, you know, they're getting overwhelmed by those. And so I do just have a passion for, we can't allow this to happen. The performance is really low, particularly for historically underserved students. And, you know, those kind of issues we got to get on top of. And the county with its support services is huge in doing that. So that's a big part of why I would like to have the job, because I think we can make some difference in that area.
Now, there's an issue about taxes on the food or the groceries. Now, can your department committee or each one of you comment on that and what that really is all about? Because we see all these different commercials, but what is it really all about? Can each one of you?
Sure. Who do you want to?
Scott, we'll start with you.
Okay.
Start with Jennifer. Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting one, because I think the primary financial backers of the yes vote are people who want to ensure that there's not a tax on soda. It's just, you just have to know that, I think, and say, okay, is it important to me to ensure that there's not a tax on everything else in order
Right.
to not have a tax on soda. So the agenda is sort of interesting there. I don't think that there's anybody proposing a broad tax or anybody thinking of a broad tax on lots of food items. The only thing, I think there's been one tax on a coastal city for soda.
Okay.
And that's about it. And I think that's what they're trying to forestall. On the other hand, I completely understand if people don't want to have more taxes on their food. I wonder about the likelihood of that happening.
Okay. Jennifer?
I'm against 103. I think it's ill-crafted. From the research I've done and other people more knowledgeable on it than me who have spoken, it has certain things listed as luxury items that I, for one, don't consider a luxury item, like menstrual products. I
Okay.
think half the population might not find those to be a luxury product.
Right.
So I do feel like there has been no proposal to tax this. I think if we get into, I believe it's a constitutional measure, and if we start changing our constitution so that we limit what we're able to do, that puts us in a place where we can't undo that easily. And I think we've seen some negative impacts in the past when we've done that. And so I feel like it's an unnecessary measure.
Okay. Now, I'm getting kind of a wrap up on time, but for each one of you, I want you to get out something that maybe we haven't covered that you want to cover to the viewers here and our viewing audience. We'll start with you, Ms. Jennifer, and then with Scott.
I just really hope people vote all the way down their ballot. Vote for governor, of course, vote for your representatives, vote for Portland City Council if you live in Portland or whatever area you live in, but please also vote in this race. This position really can have an impact. I started running in July 2017 because I knew we needed to take this office to a higher level, and I'm the one to do it. I know what the issues of the counties are. I have the support of county employees. The largest employee union at the county has endorsed me, AFSCME Local 88. I have a master's in public administration focusing on local government administration. And I have a real passion for auditing. I understand how to do auditing and how to do community engagement in a way that sets me apart. So I hope people will consider voting for me.
Okay, so Scott.
Yeah, I really, another sort of big reason why I ran is I do feel like my experience equips me well for this job. I was a financial auditor out of college, and at that point a CPA, and then I was a reporter for 23 years, including 17 at the Oregonian, where I really got to know this community quite well and build a lot of sources in this community that'll help me, I think, get behind the issues fairly quickly. And then, like I said, I've been an auditor for the last 5 years for the Oregon Secretary of State's office on a lot of important state issues, a lot of important state programs for vulnerable people. So I do feel like I'm really well equipped to come in and direct the county office to look at the services that matter most, and that's what I promise to do. Last thing I'll say is I've been endorsed by all 5 former elected auditors, including the 4 women who've held the office, and I've also been endorsed by the Oregonian, Willamette Week, the Portland Tribune, and the Scanner. And I think it's because they see that my experience will help me do a really good job. And I also would very much appreciate your vote and very much appreciate you getting down to the auditor race. Thanks very much.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Multnomah County auditors, we have Jennifer McGuirk, Scott Learn, running for you. Please, please, people, get out and vote. It is your voice. These people want to represent you. They want to do the right thing by you. But if you don't get out and vote, you can't complain. So again, let's give a big hand for Jennifer McGuirk, Scott Learn. Thank you. Welcome back to another edition of Straight Talk. And before I get started, please get out and vote. It is your voice. Now, perhaps you don't like what's going on, and perhaps some people do. But either way, please get out and vote. Please. I have D.Bora Harris, who's here. She always comes and joins us each month with Beneath the Rose. And she kind of keeps us informed about what's going on politically and encouraging us to get out and vote. And joining her is Jaydon. Okay. We're going to talk to him a little bit too. But let's talk to, this your grandmother?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead and introduce her.
My grandmother,
There you
D.Bora
go.
Harris.
Let's do it. We're getting you ready for the NBA when you have to do those interviews, see, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Bohr, how are you?
I'm doing awesome. I'm great. I'm doing great.
Well,
Excited.
What do we need to do right now?
Well, right now we need to vote by November 6th,
Yes.
2018, by 8 p.m.
Right.
If you wait until 8:01 or 8 in a few seconds, it's too late.
Now, can people do some early voting, cast them votes early?
People can cast the votes
Okay.
early. The votes began, they began sending them out around October 17 as of this week or last week. All the votes have gone out.
Okay.
If you haven't received your vote and you're expecting to get one in the mail, go and do some troubleshooting. Call the office, go down to the office, go online, find out what happened to make sure you get that vote in.
Now, do everybody get one of these? I bought it. It's called a voter's pamphlet.
Yes, read in the newspaper, what you hear on the radio, what you see on TV. You cannot use that to make a decision. To make it be a very informed citizen, you need to read through the voter's pamphlet, do your homework, also talk to people who know the candidates. Find opportunities to go to forums where candidates are. Ask questions.
Absolutely.
So you will know who to vote, because once that clock hits 8 p.m., it's too late to do anything.
8 p.m. Okay, what you have for us?
What I have today, there are a couple of hot topics I won't go into that, but you probably saw some of them today. A couple of hot runoffs. JoAnn Hardesty, of course, for City Council of Portland, and Loretta Smith. I encourage you, when you're voting, when you're making that decision, for this particular position, it isn't a term. So that person can be there until they are 199 years old. You know, if it's
there's no term limit?
It's not a term
Oh,
limit.
my goodness.
So who you put in, of course you have that opportunity every so many years to vote again,
Okay.
but it isn't a term limit. And you want to make sure you put someone in office who is going to speak on your behalf. This is the first time we have more women at the table. And you don't want to put someone in who's intimidated to talk, who's going to represent you and represent you well. No one who's going to accept what's said. And we have 2 qualified women, and what's great about this election is that we're able to, there's someone who is going to raise that 25%. And what the 25% is, right now, elected officials, politicians, females, it's only 25% in the U.S. So we're raising that bar.
Okay. We're going to clap on that. I know the ladies are glad to hear that, too. Yeah. We're raising the bar, yeah.
When we raise the bar, we want someone there who understands government, who understands what's going on, not just sitting in places, but somebody who understands what's going on. They can talk to you about any subject, anything you toss up. They have the knowledge. So that's what we need. We need that.
We need, okay.
And one other quick thing I wanted to
Go
share is, I'm going to go back real quickly in history. The 15th Amendment, and this is focusing on African Americans, because we didn't have that right to vote years ago in slavery. The 15th Amendment, it granted black men the right to vote. It was adopted in the U.S. Constitution in 1870, 148 years ago. Now, despite that amendment, by the late 1870s, there were still so many discriminatory practices used to prevent blacks from exercising that right to vote. The 15th Amendment states the right of citizens of the U.S. to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the U.S. or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. Then the Voting Rights of 1965, I'm ending at this point, signed by President Lyndon Johnson, it was aimed to overcome the legal barriers at the state and local levels that denied blacks their right to vote under the 15th Amendment. Because when in the 15th Amendment, although it said you got these rights here, there were still issues. They had the use of illiteracy. See, we got to read. You're right out of slavery and you were prohibited, you was killed if you read. So you're gonna read, but you know who you need. You listen, and someone helps you understand that. So they used that by banning. So, 1965 Act, it banned the use of literacy tests, and also the issue of poll.
Right there, I want to touch on that because I don't think our young people understand the importance of voting, whether they're black, Asian, Hispanic, whatever nationality. People have sacrificed for you to have that right to vote. So please get out and vote. I want to, because a lot of times, and I appreciate the amendment for black voters, but I also want our young voters of all nationalities to understand that people have sacrificed for you to get out and vote. Again, Hispanic, Asian, my Russian brothers, my black brothers and sisters, I don't know if I'm missing any group, but people have sacrificed on all levels.
All walks of life.
All walks of life. And the women didn't get their votes till later after that. I hope I didn't.
No, I was going to, that's why I said men. Yeah, women didn't get the right to vote until later on. Regardless of what color you were. If you're a woman, you didn't get that right to vote till later on.
So please get out. Okay, go. I'm sorry.
So that's basically it.
Okay.
And everybody, white, blacks, Hispanics, people from all walks of life died so that the voting privilege would be available to us. So that's basically it. Vote, and I'd ask my grandson why it's important to vote.
Why is it important to vote, Jane?
It is important to vote because children's future depends on your vote.
Oh my God. I just got to ask you, what you doing these days? You're going to school. What schools? Give a shout out because your teammates is going to be watching this show. What you doing over, what school you go to?
I go to Alameda Elementary School.
And how's those grades over there?
Great.
Great? We like, we got the clap on. You hear those grades? And please say that again, why it's important to vote.
It is important to vote because children's future depends on your vote.
Out of the mouth of babes. Jaydon, D.Bora Harris, Beneath the Rose, please get out and what?
Vote.
Vote.
That's it? Okay, thank you. Right now, we're going to be talking with Dr. Kenya and Mr. Corona. And we're going to talk about Measure 105. And we're also going to have a special group back, the butterflies. But there's a celebration going on right now. So Dr. Kenya is going to kind of explain that to us and what's going on. Please welcome Dr. Kenya.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for
De nada.
inviting us. Yeah. De nada. Gracias.
Yes,
So we're going to talk about celebration.
yes.
Yeah. So in these days, we are going to celebrate in the Mexican culture and some other Latino cultures, but especially I can talk about what I know, the Mexican culture. We celebrate the Dia de Muertos. That means the Day of the Dead.
Okay.
So there is a lot of misunderstanding and cultural exploitation, appropriation, and it's really misunderstand. So
Okay.
we're here trying to explain a little bit what this is about. People mix it with Halloween.
Okay.
And the other day when I was asking a friend, what means for you the Day of the Dead? Or she said, oh, everybody gets like dead heads and they are like zombies scaring people. So I was terrorized. I said, we need to do something. So that's why, I really, really appreciate this forum
Oh,
because
my pleasure. My pleasure.
it's a way to express our true culture. So the first thing that we need to know, it's a celebration that came with the old people. So it was before the Hispanic people, the Spaniards go to Mexico. It was the Aztecas, Mixtecas, Zapotecas, so a lot of cultures that has the tribute for the dead. So later it became, and it was a little mix with Hispanic traditions, and now we celebrate November 1st.
Okay.
Is all the babies that died and the
okay.
people that died in an accident.
Okay.
And November 2nd, it's the people that died.
Okay. Now, if you will, please, when you get a break in there, could you repeat everything in hablo español?
Oh, claro.
Sí.
Ya. Entonces nosotros estamos un poco aterrorizados de que la cultura se desentienda, especialmente con a veces algunas publicidades que hay, y entonces queremos explicar lo que es la cultura del Día de Muertos. Entonces la cultura del Día de Muertos se inició desde los aztecas, desde antes, con muchas culturas diferentes, mixtecas, zapotecas, totonacas, y lo que sucede es que ellos veneraban a los muertos. Entonces en síntesis, se quedó después de los españoles la tradición de que noviembre 1 nosotros íbamos a celebrar a los bebés y a la gente que murió en un accidente. Y noviembre 2 vamos a celebrar a las otras personas que murieron. Entonces ya tenemos más historia. Later we can talk more in English.
Gracias.
Because it's a little big.
Yes, because what I would like to do, each time we explain something in
Okay.
English, we'll take a little break and then we'll repeat it in hablo español.
sure.
See? Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
No, de
And
nada.
then, in November 1st and 2nd, because our ancestors come, then we have to be celebrating in party. So
Okay.
that's why we are dressing, the best things that we have, because the soul of the people is coming with us. So then we clean our houses. The tradition is we clean our houses and we have the flower of cempasúchil that they can give me the flower.
Okay.
So then that flower is called here marigold, but for us is the sempa. Xochitl is flower in Aztec. Thank you, mi Anel.
Oh, beautiful.
Entonces, this flower marigold, we are going to, after we clean everything, we're going to put here the picture of the people. We're going to show you a picture later, and we're going to take these pieces and do a road with candles, so then they know where to go. We're going to put water
Yeah.
and the food and the music that they like. So Grace is going to give me a frame of a friend that just died, Navani. So here we're going to put, she was a dancer.
Okay.
She was a good friend. So here we used to go to a dance camp. So here are pieces of the trees and the tickets for the raffle, the things that we used to love. She was from the state of Veracruz, so then I put a little piece of the paliacate. So now I'm going to explain in Spanish.
Yes.
Entonces, en noviembre 1, antes de noviembre 1, nosotros vamos a limpiar toda la casa y vamos a celebrar porque nuestros ancestros van a venir. Entonces, nosotros estamos contentos porque van a visitarnos el 1 y el 2. Entonces, limpiamos todo y usamos esta flor que es cempasúchil, flor de muerto, y con los pedacitos hacemos camino y ponemos velas para que ellos lleguen a donde estamos. Hay agua y también ponemos comida, la comida que les gustaba, y ahí vamos a tener una foto. Entonces aquí, por ejemplo, tengo la foto de mi amiga Navani, una bailarina que hace poquito nos dejó, y íbamos a un campamento de danza, y entonces por eso le puse aquí las cosas que nosotros teníamos en el campamento. Entonces sería la ofrenda, it would be an example like this. And then, también vamos a poner papel picado. We are also going to use the papel picado.
Is that okay? No, lay it down.
Yeah, it's like you. Entonces, she's going to explain the papel picado. Ella va a explicar el papel picado.
Okay. Oh, one minute, por favor. I know a little something. Okay, I'm going to just turn this on here, and hopefully, okay, I have the hot mic. Okay? Is it okay, Mike? Okay.
Yo? Okay, pero voltea la cámara.
Okay. Yeah, there you go.
Fuerte.
El papel picado representa
Fuerte, fuerte.
representa la vida y la muerte, y una señora.
One minute, por favor.
Dice que está apagado. Entonces, más fuerte y luego en inglés, ¿ok? Yo sé papel picado y te representa. Lo mejor que puedas.
Ask them how that is. Is it working?
Or she can.
Okay, so
Or
you
she
can still
can.
pick,
Or she can.
okay, you can still
come
pick her up?
closer.
Yes. Okay, come closer.
Vente,
Okay.
cerquita.
¿Qué se pasa por atrás?
You know, we're gonna work this out. Hold on. We are gonna work this out. I'm gonna give you your own little special mic. How about that?
Ooh.
Okay. There you go.
Este es el papel picado y representa entre la vida y la muerte. Una señora con mucho talento lo hizo, y ella viene de aquí de Portland. Yo pienso que tiene mucho talento, porque para mí se me ve imposible que uno de nosotros lo pueda hacer, pero con mucho talento y mucha inspiración lo puedes hacer, y creo que así ella lo pudo hacer, y me encanta el Día de los Muertos. This is papel picado. It represents the life and the dead. So there was a person that made it, and she had a bunch of talent because it looks impossible to make, and I think she's so awesome making these. She made a bunch of them, and she has a bunch of talent. She made this too. This is a Katrina, and you can see here that it has the flowers. You can't really tell, but there's the flowers, the feathers, and it looks so pretty. I can't explain more.
Yeah, very nice.
It's-
Español.
Hablo español.
Este es papel picado, es la Katrina, y aquí se ven las plumas y las flores que pudo diseñar, y se ve mucho cómo le hizo la Katrina. Aquí se ven mucho los dientes y la cara. Me encantó su talento que tiene, y that's pretty much all.
Oh. Beautiful. Let me get my microphone back. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm going to say how they decorate with
Okay.
this.
I'm ready. Okay.
So then, for the ofrendas for
One
our
moment.
dead.
Let's give her her name. ¿Cómo se llama?
Lindsay.
Lindsay. Come on back, Lindsay. Let's give Lindsay.
Sydney, sorry,
Cindy.
Sydney.
Yes, yes,
With
yes.
the dead head, I can.
Yes. Let's give her a big hand. There you go. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay.
Yeah. So our little dancer explained us how this paper is made, and as she was saying, she represents the fragility of the life. If you touch, it's super.
It is very light.
It's really complicated to do that.
Yes.
Now you can buy it, but we do it in paper.
Oh my goodness, so,
Entonces,
so light.
ya.
Yes.
Entonces esto va a representar, bueno, que nos explicó nuestra talentosa bailarina, que es la vida y la muerte, y esto es lo que usamos para las ofrendas. This is what we use to decorate the offerings. Y otra cosa que usamos, the other thing that we use is
Bread?
the bread. A ver, traigan el pan. Ahora les vamos a... La celebración del Día de Muertos no nada más es maquillaje. The celebration of the Day of the Dead is not only makeup. Aquí le traemos el pan. So we have here samples of bread.
Ah.
And it's made, you know, with, it could be with sugar, with ajonjolí sesame, and it represents the bones, for the Day of the Dead.
Okay.
Entonces este va a representar, bueno, el pan de muerto va a representar los huesos de la gente cuando se muere, and it could be also in different shapes.
Okay.
Well, and this is like the traditional, este es el tradicional. And we have one that sometimes it could be scary. Tenemos otro que a lo mejor nos da un poco de miedo. This is what they do in Michoacán. They do figures of people or animals.
Yes.
And my friend went to get it in Woodburn because it's hard to get here. Entonces esta es otra representación de un pan de muerto que tiene figura humana y que puede ser también de animal que hacen otras regiones de México. Este lo trajeron de Woodburn, especial para que pudiéramos tenerlo aquí. Later we can try it, good, ¿eh?
Okay.
Después lo podemos tener.
Okay, sí.
La próxima es...
Sí. Yes.
So, our cultures...
Let's give a hand for the sisters. Yes, yes.
They can come here.
Okay, they can come up.
Esta es la representación de lo que es nuestro concepto de muerte y vida. So this is the representation, the symbology of what is the death and the life for us. Okay. So here in the Occidental culture is death and life. It's like an opposite.
Okay.
Nosotros en la cultura occidental es muerte o vida, son como opuestos. But in our culture it's it's a cycle. En nuestra cultura va a ser un ciclo. That's why this is the Aztec representation of the life. So we are born, then we get old, and then we die.
Right.
Entonces esta es la representación. Nacemos, crecemos, nos volvemos viejitos y luego morimos. So the Aztec people says that it's not that you die and we put your body there, is we are going to put you inside like a plant.
Okay.
We're going to plant you again. Entonces los aztecas dicen, no dicen te vamos a enterrar, dicen te vamos a sembrar. So it's another different concept. So we also have...
You know, I heard that you don't die until the last person says your name.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So in our culture, it's super important honoring our past, and it's very important because we can learn from them. So when they come to visit us, we share with all this, and also, for example, my grandpa is going to have his favorite drink. He's going to have a soccer ball because he loves soccer.
Okay.
He likes specific music, danzón, so I'm going to put danzón. So I'm going to celebrate with him 2 days. He's going to come with me 2 days, and then he's going to live for 1 full year. And also, you know, with my friend, I'm going to put her music, and we're going to put the bells that we used to dance. So we're going to be super happy doing party with them. So it's not just like makeup face, it's much more intense, it's profound. Entonces, en nuestra cultura no nada más es que nos pintamos la cara, sino que vienen nuestros ancestros y vamos nosotros a estar compartiendo con ellos la comida, la música, celebrando. Mi abuelito, por ejemplo, como a él le gustaba el fútbol, pues vamos a tener su pelota y su bebida favorita y la música. Entonces, the last thing that I want to share is the makeup.
Okay, the makeup.
So, ¿quién quiere venir? Who wants to come? And this is really, really important because we are...
Want them all to come out?
Yeah.
So you can show?
Okay. So, entonces, mi Anel nos va a enseñar el maquillaje. She's going to model the makeup.
Yes.
Especially from the face que llevamos del maquillaje. It's very, very, very important, please, that we don't have a zombie mouth. And nosotros no tenemos una boca de zombie because we are dead and we are a dead head. We have teeth. teeth. Or
Teeth.
tooth.
Teeth.
Teeth.
Yes.
So, entonces, como pueden ver, you
Yes.
can see Mianel has here
Yes.
her mouth because she's dead, so we cannot have a line with lines.
Okay.
It has to be teeth like you have there, right?
Okay. Okay. Oh, while you're pointing there, this is the
Yeah.
celebration. Let's talk a little bit about
Yeah.
that.
So
Yes.
there are a lot of celebrations in
Yes.
Portland now and all over the world. Va a haber muchas celebraciones, pero lo más importante es que hagamos lo auténtico para que podamos ser respetuosos. So we're going to honor the authentic, and
Okay.
there are a lot of celebrations, but this is going to be one of the celebrations that is honoring our real traditions with our food, with our music, with our dances. So we're going to be inviting you to come to the Portland Art Museum.
Okay.
It's the first time that we're going to do it. A friend is going to do it, so we're collaborating for do the real traditions, the food, the mole, the music. So this is the real essence of what is the Day of the Dead.
Okay.
Entonces, esta es una presentación tradicional de lo que es realmente el Día de Muertos. Es lo real, no nada más vamos a pintarnos las caras y ya, sino es así que el pan, que la comida, que la música. So we hope to see you there. Nos vamos a ver allá. It's going to be on November 2nd, va a ser noviembre 2, en the Portland Art Museum in downtown, en el Museo de Portland en la ciudad. And it's going to last from 4 to 9 p.m.
Okay.
Desde las 4 hasta las 9. Entonces,
Process.
I hope to see you there.
Okay. Okay. Now, how would you like to transition in? You want to talk about Berkeley 105 while you're here? Please,
Okay.
Mr. Corona. He want to talk about what's the fight. And then we're gonna have the butterflies perform for us. Okay.
Okay.
You want to put this, set it up here?
Oh, yeah, please.
See. Okay.
So are we ready?
Yes.
Yeah, because I measured 105. I was in a TV set with one of these sponsor people from this law or
Yes.
for this bill, the Oregon for Immigration Reform.
Yes.
And she kicked me out from the TV set.
Off
She
the
asked me
set?
to. She was very upset when I told her that this measure is trying to criminalize the laborers,
Okay.
the workers. And when I did some research, well, these organizations, is Ophir and FAIR,
Okay.
these organizations are considered the Southern Poverty Law Center designates these organizations as a hate groups, Ophir
my
and
goodness.
FAIR.
Okay.
And really it is.
Yes.
I can say that. And when I did some research for the people that was sponsoring this law, well, this person that was the secretary of Ophir, she said that she supports European immigration.
Okay.
Because she thinks that European people
Yeah.
learn the language and they do all the things needed to live here. And they say that the immigrants, well, we are taking over the culture, and she's complaining that that her sister can find a job in Los Angeles because she didn't speak Spanish. Because in Los Angeles you have to be bilingual, so
Right, okay.
it's better talking two languages.
Yes.
And I have a lot of white American friends speaking both languages. So probably this person is German American, because people tend to say, hey, you are Latin American, you are African American, you are Mexican American, but never say themselves like a German American, Swedish American.
Yes.
So we are all Americans,
Right.
and we are supporting the work, we are supporting the immigration. Immigration laws are very criminalizing the labor. People are here because the labor market need the workers.
Exactly. Okay.
And the government is not providing enough documented workers. That's why the people cross the border and come here, because more and more needed to work. But as this organization says, that they only support European immigration.
Patients. Okay.
And that's why when I was asking this lady, hey, don't you think that you are criminalizing the workers and the labor as the neoliberalism are doing forever?
Right.
Because all immigration is not only in the United States, it's a movement around the world. And the poverty caused by the mainstream countries like United States, Germany, Holland, and all these countries, mainstream countries causing poverty in Africa, in South America, in Asia, are being just pushing for the immigration. And at the same time, there is a labor market very open for the people.
Right.
So what we need to do is repeal 105 because it's
105,
criminal.
okay, yes.
Yeah, both know 105 because 105 is repealing a right that we gain in this state to be sanctuary, to be welcome, and not to be stopped because of our color, because of our accent, or the way that we speak. And we don't need to allow this racist and supremacist environment take over our state. We don't need that. It was a hundred of years a battle by the communities of color just to gain in the 80s the sanctuary state status.
Now, can you explain to the audience here and our viewing audience the difference between document and undocumented? Because they throw that out there and they're making everybody think that everybody's just coming, they're undocumented, and they're taking all the jobs. And so kind of explain that so people can get a better understanding of that.
Well,
if you can.
Documented people is the people that grant a permit to work here.
Okay.
And can be temporary, it can be permanent, and can be American citizen. And undocumented people is the people doesn't have permit to work here, but paying taxes. They have a T number, tax identification number to pay taxes.
Okay, now, so they have a number. Okay, so they're saying they're undocumented.
They say undocumented.
But they're paying taxes.
They're paying taxes.
And they have a number to pay taxes.
They have a number provided by the government to pay taxes.
Okay.
And, you know, no taxation without representation.
But see, they're not telling us that. They're just saying they're undocumented, they're taking all the money and taking all the jobs, but they're not telling us that they have, now what is the number?
T number, tax identification number.
Identification number, and they're paying taxes.
And paying taxes,
See,
and
we're not told
this
that.
number
Okay,
is
go ahead.
provided by the IRS.
Okay.
$11 billion are paying payroll taxes with ITINs in the United States.
So the quote unquote undocumented
Are paying $11 billion
$11 billion in taxes a year.
a year.
Oh my goodness.
Every year. And
Go ahead,
since-
doctor. Did you?
I think I wanted to say something because some people say, "Oh, you take our jobs." I was invited to work in this country because they said we need a psychologist, counselor that speaks Spanish and English
Okay.
and has papers. You know that.
okay.
So they give me my papers because
Yes.
I was able to come to this country because they offered me the job to do that. So then I remember one person told me, "Oh, but you are taking our jobs." And I said, "Look, if you have a PhD in psychology, you have a specialization in counseling, you speak Spanish, French, and English, and you pass the interview, go ahead, take my job."
Right.
Nobody could do it. That's
Yes.
why they hired me.
So you qualify.
So, yeah. So
Yes.
then, when they said, "Oh, you take our job," and take it, that's okay. You go on to take the job of the people that is cleaning the whole day bathrooms for $3 an hour. Take that job. Nobody wants to take it.
Yes.
That is one thing. The second, the people say you cross the border, cross us.
Okay.
Half of Oregon was from Mexico. So then, who's going home?
Right.
So,
okay.
there is a lot of
Yes.
myths that we're not here to be against, like you say. It's just the people need understanding that, I work as counselor. I was like dance teacher,
Yes.
but I am a school counselor. I work as a school counselor because I don't like much administration, but I prefer to be with people. So then I applied to be a school counselor in school, and of course I was overqualified, but I said, no, it's okay. I want to help a lot of people.
Yes.
Talking about the Measure 105,
Yes.
a lot of kids, it's impacting horribly, so the people need to know, because a lot of kids, for example, they don't want to go to school. They are crying and crying. Then when I ask, not just Hispanics, like
Yes.
Pacific Islanders, a lot of kids that they know that they have family or friends that they are at risk, only because, they look brown
Gotcha.
or any other
Something
color
close.
that is different to white. So then sometimes they don't want to go to school and they cry. And when I ask, it's because they said, what if I go home and my parents are not there?
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Other kids, sometimes, I do support groups, like counseling groups with the kids. And a kid was telling me a few days ago, I'm afraid because if the 105 pass, we're going home. This is our home, we're born here, but then we have to go back to our countries because we're afraid that they are going to kick us or separate me from my parents. so we're going home. No home, home is here,
Yeah,
but they said to
exactly.
the other home.
Right.
So then another student that was, white, she said, are you leaving? No, I don't want you to go, you're my friend. So it's breaking hearts of a lot of people.
Yes.
The kids sometimes, and the families, they don't want to go to the doctor because they said, what if we go and they call someone? So this is only now. What if we have the nightmare to have no sanctuary city? So we have, to be all together in this. These countries mostly immigrants. So
Yes,
the
yes,
only
absolutely.
people that was here was the Native Americans, so we're
Exactly.
all immigrants. So a lot of people come, why? Because we want a brighter future, or we were brought here. So then we're here, let's get a beautiful place, not just like fight and take out the sanctuary city status. It would be horrible. It would be terrifying.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
We need to get the dancers up. Are they going to dance again?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Let's bring the dancers up.
Entonces, and then
yeah, well, the sanctuary status was granted to the state because the sheriff deputies in Independence, they were harassing some Mexican Americans.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Mexican American, just because of the accent and the skin color, they were harassing these people.
Right.
And these people just come back and sue the state, and the state had paid millions of dollars because harassing people, because profiling people. And that's why Oregon State chose not to be harassing people anymore because of the color of the skin,
Yes.
because of the accent, because of the appearance. So this was granted, and we need to repeal 105 because I said, these organizations are considered hate organizations, and we don't need hate in our state.
Absolutely.
We are trying to live here peacefully. We are working hard for our neighbors, for our communities. We are growing our communities. And the most important thing, these people are saying that we are stealing their jobs. For every immigrant, I came here as an immigrant in 2010. Since I came here, I just rent a house. Then I purchase a house, and I get a car. So I pay taxes, and
Yes.
I give work for all these people.
Right.
They're renting the house, building the houses, paying for the food. So we are boosting the economy.
Yes.
Boosting the economy. Latino immigrants in Oregon State, in 2017, we were contributing $7 billion.
$7 billion.
$7 billion to the state economy. When the state economy, the last year, the total budget was $22 billion. So
Oh my
one-third of the economy in this state is granted by the Latino immigrants. And we have some other immigrants, and we have some other communities crushed by the racist and supremacist environment. We don't need that. We need to work together, stay together, vote no on 105, and say yes to the diversity inclusion state.
Absolutely. Now we have the butterflies going to dance for us. Everybody ready? Yes.
Cuentan que en Oaxaca se toma el mezcal con café. Cuentan que en Oaxaca se toma el mezcal con café. Dicen que la hierba le cura la mala fe. Dicen que la hierba le cura la mala fe. A mí me gusta el mole, que soledad me va a moler. A mí me gusta el mole, que soledad me va a moler. bravo, se mueve la mole entera. Cuentan que en Oaxaca con agua es el chocolate. Cuentan que en Oaxaca con agua es el chocolate. Dicen que en la fiesta torito se ha de quemar.
Turn around
Dicen que en la
with Bob
fiesta
with the audience. Dr. Kenya, oh beautiful, come on, turn around, let them see you. Yeah. Dr. Kenya, how does someone get involved with your program? This is beautiful what you're doing with the young ladies. How do they get involved with you? Yes.
Well, I think we don't have much spots left now, but they can see our website,
Okay.
Ballet Papaloti.
Yes.
Papalotl.
Yes.
That means butterfly.
Butterfly.
In Aztec, yeah, in
Yes.
Nahuatl.
Yes, yes, yes. Let's give another big clap praise for the butterflies. Yes, yes, yes. And please, please, hablo español for the people to go out and vote. And what's the measure, Señor Corona?
Sí, sí.
Yes.
Todos tienen que ir a votar, todos tenemos que ir a votar porque esta es nuestra oportunidad de poder expresar lo que nosotros pensamos y si nosotros queremos una sociedad bonita, multicultural, con más amor y arte, tenemos que ir a votar, todos tenemos que ir a votar. So everybody has to go vote because we want a multicultural society with love and art.
Get out and vote. The butterflies. Thanks, everybody. Wonderful. Señor Corona.